I'm Steve Benson. That's Paul Schultz. This is the Don't Panic Radio Show. Sit back, relax, and ignore the news because nothing you're about to hear is true.
In the beginning, the universe was created. This has made a lot of people very angry and been widely regarded as a bad move.
One exception, and there's this. I'm proud of you. I am proud of each and every one of you. No matter where you're from, no matter who you love, unless you love Trump. I'm not proud of you if you love Trump.
No,
but I am proud of you.
We may have a problem.
Got a problem with that one, right? So I thought I went to the Pride Parade over the weekend. Not only did I go to the Pride Parade, I was in the Pride Parade. So I figured I would relate my experience. Somebody said, wow, it's really different being in the parade from watching a parade. And it caused me to think a little bit. I was like, from 6th grade through when I was a senior in high school, all the way through, I was in the parade. Like I rarely went to a parade.
Yeah, you were a marching band, right?
I was in marching band in the parade. Yeah. So the first parade I went to after this, it was weird because I was like, "What do? You just sit here? What do you just stand here? What's supposed to happen during a parade?" And I think it was either the Michigan City or LaPorte parade, and I just kind of walked around, like, let's go find the bands. I want to watch the marching bands. One interesting thing about the Pride Parade, to my knowledge, there weren't any marching bands, which is kind of weird. I don't think they do any marching bands that I know.
There was no stealth bomber flyovers or anything.
There was no stealth bomber flyover that I know of, because it's stealth. I mean, right. For all I know, it might have been there the whole time. So we actually were with the First Church of Cannabis.
Oh,
longtime listeners will be familiar with the 2015 Religious Freedom Restoration Act that Mike Pence signed into law. We complained about that for several shows.
Yes.
It was meant to protect religious organizations from being prosecuted for following their beliefs. That's what the public relations people said. But the small government Republicans, what they were really doing is trying to legalize discrimination against LGBTQ people and other marginalized groups by trying to give people this legal cloak to hide behind, right? So our friend, friend of all punks in Indianapolis, punk royalty around these parts, the Snoop Dogg of metropolitan Indianapolis, Bill Levin, who also at one time ran for governor, started the First Church of Cannabis. Our friends from Chopped Liver will know who Bill Levin is. They're good friends with him. And he starts the First Church of Cannabis. And of course, since he's Bill Levin and he's run for governor before and people know who he is, it got a lot of news coverage. Yeah. And the cops basically said, well, that's been tried before. If we catch you with weed, we can still arrest you and you're not going to be able to hide behind this law. And he said, oh, I know, but I'm making a point. Like anybody could start a church for anything. And then just say that I was just following my own religion by discriminating against whoever I want to discriminate against. Right. So he started that. Everybody figured it was a gimmick. Turns out it wasn't a gimmick. The church is still going strong. They still have services every Wednesday. In fact, I just shared their post from today announcing, and they do live stream too. So go check out my Facebook if y'all want to view the live stream of the First Church of Cannabis.
It's an early example of just like, playing checkers while other guys playing chess.
Yeah.
Pence was playing checkers or tic-tac-toe maybe.
Tic-tac-toe is more likely, knowing Mike Pence. I mean, it takes a special kind of skill to be a politician who is hated by both sides.
Yeah, he
The
really he.
oh,
Yes.
that's what you get. That's what you get when you don't have a
Yeah.
soul. Like he hides behind his
Yep.
Christianity, but dude doesn't have a soul. He doesn't have a moral compass.
Nope.
He he got on the Trump train, and the Trump train dumped him off like they do everybody else. So screw
Yep.
him. I don't care. I don't feel sorry for that guy.
Not one bit.
So the First Church of Canada is still going strong. They serve
Hmm.
a couple of hundred people, 300 people twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. People that live on the street, and they take meals to them, blankets in the wintertime,
Hmm.
coats, tents, um, hygiene products. So they serve a lot of people and
Right.
uh, promote the health benefits and otherwise benefits of the cannabis plant.
Hmm.
But basically, their whole creed is don't be an asshole, be kind to people, love ridiculously, and serve somebody if you can. And they were in the parade. They were in the Pride Parade this year.
What a time.
So we show up. Didn't know what to expect at all because it's
Hmm.
like I don't know. This is the first year they've done it. They don't know what to expect. Uh, but my wife actually went to high school with Bill's wife, and she's of course one of the ministers at the First Church of Cannabis, and she's the one that
Hmm.
you see in the rainbow dress sitting up on the car.
Hmm.
Her name is Rue, and my wife actually went to high school with her, and they're still friends. And so we show up, and you get all you have is like this map of the route, and then like you're supposed to be in this zone. So we're like walking all over the place, looking
Hmm.
for where we're supposed to be, and just walking around saying, "Where's the First Church of Cannabis?" to everybody.
Yeah.
And every time we'd ask, people are like, "Oh, you're with them? That's so cool!" Like everybody thought that was cool. We finally find where we're supposed to be, and I'm enlisted to drive the car. I was like,
See,
"Well,
I
that's
was wondering
kind of
about that
cool."
because when I saw your pictures, I'm like, now knowing Steve, it was probably one of those deals where like, he's walking along and somebody goes, hey, can you drive? Yeah, you want to drive this? Okay, and you just get in and take off. But you actually had a plan.
Well, it sort of happened like that. We knew who we were going with. I
Mm.
didn't know there was going to be a car. I thought maybe we'd just be walking.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but the car was there, and Rue just said, "Hey, Steve, can you drive the car?" I'm not going to say that everybody else was maybe impaired and shouldn't be driving. I'm not going to say that because this is a family show.
Yes.
But I may have been let's put it this way, I may have been the most qualified to drive the car in that moment.
You were the most paired at that moment.
I was the most paired, right? Right. So while we're standing there waiting for things to get good, a lot of being in a parade is just standing around waiting for your turn. So we had to
Hmm.
wait for like 2 hours before it was our turn to go. But while we're there were some cops nearby. It's like some motorcycle cops. Um, I don't know what they were doing, like doing something with traffic or maybe trying to get some cars towed, cop things. And of course, Bill, and I made this point, like Bill knows how to do things, and he's just he, he will follow the law unless it's immoral. So
Hmm.
when it comes to immoral laws, he's like, I don't care. So
Yeah.
he walked up to the cops, had a nice conversation with them, because that's what you do when you know that you may interact with police because you don't follow the immoral laws. For example, cannabis, for example, serving people on the street, as would probably surprise a lot of people. It can be, depending on what you're doing, day of the week, what the city council was feeling like that week, and the individual
Hmm.
judgment of the cop. It could be considered illegal to serve people food when those people
Yeah.
are super hungry and living on the street. But to
Right.
Bill, it's like, I don't care. That's immoral. I'm still going to help
Hmm.
these people. But what you do to try to reduce the amount of hassle is you walk up and talk to the cops and get to know them a little bit, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. So he did that and they left us alone.
Well, I mean,
And
he is a politician.
well, he was.
you
Yeah.
know, so you know, you learn how to play the game, or you take your mitt and go home.
And that sort of answers my question that I've had a lot is like he seriously is like the Snoop Dogg of Indianapolis. It's like
Mm.
it's part of his personality. It's part of his shtick, you know,
Hmm.
and he says it publicly, like he believes in the healing power of weed, right?
Mm.
And it makes you wonder. It's like, I suppose no cops have decided to do anything like they could. I
Hmm.
suppose. I'm not saying he is doing anything illegal, but like it's like Snoop Dogg, right? Snoop Dogg is not secretive about any at any given moment. If you're a cop and you want to make a name for yourself, you can probably walk up and arrest Snoop Dogg. It might not
Yeah,
be good
yeah,
for your career though, right? Because there might be
mm.
people in the upper echelons who'd be
Yeah.
like, "You're making us look bad, dude."
Hmm.
So once we got going, one of the interesting things about this parade in particular is there's certain sections where they have barricades, but they don't have barricades for the whole route. So those become sort of like almost choke points where the car will fit through, but there's only like a foot and a half or a foot on each side of the car to where the crowd is
Hmm.
right up next to you. So that was kind of
Hmm.
fun because that's like just a cheering crowd on both sides, right? And the second
Yeah.
they recognized Bill or the second they saw the banner and figured out who we were, of course,
Hmm.
there's tens of thousands of people there. Probably all of them smoke weed. So you're like, or 90% of them do. And just the whole idea of there being a church devoted to cannabis, uh, we were kind of popular. There was only about a dozen of us, and but we were pretty popular going through there.
I can't imagine why.
Oh, the other thing there were a few people there in the pictures that I didn't really know. The church
Hmm.
actually got a sponsorship from a dispensary.
Hmm.
So there were three girls there who were with the dispensary. They're the most scantily clad in the pictures that you
I was
probably
gonna say,
saw.
the dispensary
Yeah.
girls, they're like
The,
throwing shit out to the crowd,
yeah,
like
they had all
a
these
Shriners throwing
coupons.
candy.
Exactly. Yep.
They're throwing joints out.
Joints and Cheech and Chong are there. Hey man, throw me a fatty. And then after that, we were going to go to the festival, but we decided not to
Yeah,
because we were tired. And of course,
yeah,
I had to
bet.
make the joke a few times about how my feet didn't hurt. I don't know why everybody else's feet hurt.
Let's keep going. Come on, what are you,
Yeah, yeah,
lollygaggers?
exactly.
What are you doing?
Seven sound.
The first Pride was a riot, as you've seen. It
Yeah,
was
as
at the Stonewall Saloon or whatever the heck place that was. And Martha P. Johnson was like, "We're not taking it anymore," because the cops used to come in there regularly and beat up uh, transgender folks and gay people and stuff. And
hmm.
and she was like, "We're done with this." And they just started
That's
throwing
right.
bricks, right? And that is one of the interesting things is they don't allow uniformed cops at the Pride Parade. They basically ask the cops are like, "So you need us to be there for security?" And they're like, "No, we don't want uniform." So the cops that we saw were kind of like off the route over to the side, probably controlling
Mm.
traffic and figuring out how they can make
Yeah,
people's
yeah.
lives miserable, maybe. But yeah, that was it. That was the Pride Parade. It's a lot different than I, I've heard that it used to be. I've heard that it used to be sort of a protest. Now
Hmm.
it's just like corporations have we there was one moment they moved us around a couple times, but while we were waiting, we were in what I could only assume was Church Row. There were like a dozen churches like marching in this thing, and they had us in the middle of all these churches, and I'm like, they're really putting us in the middle of all these churches? Well, I guess it does say church in our name.
Mm. Didn't have any PTSD or anything from being surrounded by churches.
I do have a bias against churchy people. Um,
Yeah, same.
I would say I did look up a statistic once, and it was much different than I had expected. My bias had said that almost all Christians are anti-gay, but I looked this thing up about like church in terms of surveys of people who self-identify as Christian, and it's like it's over 50%, but it's only like 54% or something are anti-gay. I was like, wow, that's way fewer than I expected. Still too many, but way
Well, that's
fewer than I
because the
expected.
numbers are going down.
So whenever somebody, you display a pride flag, and by the way, the wife of one of the Supreme Court justices, Samuel Alito, he's been in the
Mm-hmm.
news. Sam Alito's been in the news lately because of his wife, supposedly his wife, flying pro-insurrection flags at their house
Mm-hmm.
and at their beach house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and his excuse is, oh, well, that's my wife did that. I told her to take him down, but she refused to take him down. She likes to
Mm-hmm.
fly flags, but I don't. Okay,
Yeah.
dude. Like the only time that you're not able to control women is when you don't have a gavel in your hand, I guess. Right? And they got secretly recorded recently. A journalist
Mm-hmm.
pretended to be a conservative person and was like, "Hey, don't you agree that, we need to just beat the left? We can't really compromise." And Sam Alito is like, "Yeah, I agree with you. One side's going to win. There can't be a compromise." I'm like, "Well, that's a nice place to it's a nice attitude to have on the Supreme Court, right?" I mean, we all knew it,
Yeah.
but to say it out loud. And
Yeah.
then his wife said, um, she said, I'm not going to do it because, well, my husband doesn't really want me to. But when all this is over, meaning like when he retires probably or whatever, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to fly a Jesus flag because I have to look at a pride flag across the lagoon at our neighbors. So if I have to look at that pride flag, I'm going to make them look at my Jesus flag. And I'm like, a couple of things. One, pride flags are not anti-Christian
Yeah.
inherently, right? If
Yeah.
you think of it as anti-Christian, well, that tells on you, right? You're telling on
Yeah.
yourself.
You're telling on yourself. Yep.
Especially considering 40 some percent of Christians think there's absolutely nothing wrong with being gay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's your specific belief, not Jesus in general. Secondly, you're the freaking wife of one of the most powerful people in the country,
Mm-hmm.
which makes him one of the most powerful people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you're so fragile that you're like, oh, I need to put up a flag because I got to push back on this persecution. You're one of the
Mm-hmm.
least persecuted people in the world. And that's what makes me go, there's something inherent in human nature that makes people want to think that they're being persecuted and have no power. And that's why people have road rage. That's why people put their stupid flags up, the
Mm-hmm.
pro-Trump or don't tread on me stuff, is they just feel this powerlessness. If the wife of one of the most powerful people in the world feels that powerless that she's just got to put up a flag against that gay pride flag, that tells you a lot about human nature and
Yeah.
specifically that C word in particular. I didn't want to get us demonetized.
Nobody hanging any kind of flag like, say, the one you have behind you is going to like look across the lagoon and go, "Shit, you're right," fuck it, and take theirs down. It's just
Right.
not going to happen.
Right.
And like, how much of your day do you spend mad, needlessly? You
Yeah.
know, if that sets you off, man, if seeing colors sets you off, everything obviously does. It's like you said, how fragile are you? Back back during the heaviest part of the COVID with the lockdown and all that, when we lived over at the old apartment complex, Atticus and I would go for walks 2 or 3 times a day just to get out of the house, and because there was nobody out and about, so it was just us. So we'd walk around, and it was a big setup, and people would have, their pride flags. One dude had a One Love, Bob Marley flag hanging off of his balcony, and so walked around the corner and somebody had their big fucking Trump flag hanging up. So that's when I just walked into the office. What's the ordinance or rule again on flags? And the girl behind the desk goes, I know who you're talking about. But if it's anything else, we didn't care. But if we saw a don't step on snake, flag or a Trump flag or even an American flag, bro, because you can't do it. You weren't. It's in the lease. You can't. It's a violation.
Yeah.
But we didn't give a shit about these. But that was our little passive way of like messing with people's day.
I want to
It was
put,
crazy how many people had to complain. How many people there had to complain to get that Trump flag taken down? It was crazy.
and they feel oppressed.
Mm-hmm. They're professional oppressors. Well, yeah, but they're professionally oppressed.
I know at this point they probably can't even commit, fraud or any sort of felonies without getting arrested.
Right?
Yeah.
Change the channel, Marge.
For Snoop Dogg of Indianapolis, Bill Levin. For Paul Schultz, I'm Steve Vinson. This has been the Don't Panic Radio Show, and nothing you just heard was true.